No funny beginning, just a spoiler alert. Oh my God. Just a spoiler alert.
That's a spoiler for you from Hunter. Ladies and gentlemen, at the top of the hour, we have a burp.
Oh, spoiler alert, because we're talking about Pet Sematary.
Yes.
I see what you did
Guys,
there. I like that.
Welcome back to another episode of the Beacon House Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Casey.
I'm another host, Hunter.
I'm yet another host, Spencer.
And this is the first time we're ever doing like a full-blown episode all about a movie. Mm-hmm. It's
Well,
not like we've
except for-
done two others that we never put out.
They'll never see the light of day.
Except for the first two times we tried to do a podcast.
Do we still have the Ritual and Cloverfield Paradox hidden somewhere?
Probably.
It is. It's
That's
on
going to
the-
be
it's on the
bonus,
Google
bonus
Drive
content somewhere.
That'll be for Patreon whenever that happens one
Yeah.
day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into spoiler territory, is there any of this we can do without spoilers?
We can do initial thoughts.
Why would we do it without spoilers, though?
Let's do this.
Well, up to a point. So if somebody's not seen it, they can still get
Listen,
something out
okay,
of
gotcha.
get a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
something out of the episode, and then go and
Casey, you had it in initial thoughts?
Oh, I think we should do initial thoughts and then whether or not people should go see the movie. And then we'll jump into the
nitty-gritty.
nitty-gritty.
Ooh, the nitty gritty. I love that. The nitty
The
gritty.
thick of it.
I'll just have.
I don't know.
It's okay with you guys. I'll just have the gritty.
We're gonna give initial thoughts,
I
and then
love
we're gonna
grits. Who doesn't
climb
like
the
grits?
deadwood. I love grits. My dad hates grits.
Before we get too far into,
Grits?
has anybody seen The Dirt again yet?
No, I know you've seen it 11 times
10.
now.
I'm up to 10. I'm 10 times now. Anyway, go on.
It's not that good.
You're wrong. You're wrong in the way that the sun might contain a little bit of hydrogen.
All right, so let's kick this thing off. Spencer, initial thoughts of the movie, and do you recommend people go see it?
Fuck you. I'm not doing it first. You go.
No, you held on.
You've been holding out. Do it.
No, you guys have been trying to bait me.
Do it.
Casey, you have been trying to bait me since last night. It's not going to work, motherfucker. You better tell somebody else. You better go tell that.
All right, Hunter, go ahead.
Okay, for the next mailbag, I want all of you to tell Spencer to eat shit for this.
Wait a second.
But only if you think he should.
Hang on, you touched on something important there. Before we get into Pet Sematary, let's talk about that. Coming up this Sunday, after this episode airs, we're going to be doing live mailbag episode at Books A Million in West Knoxville, where we go to Joe Muggs coffee shop, and we're going to be doing live mailbag from 2 o'clock to 4 p.m., meaning we're going to be there, we're going to have the mics, you come up, sit down, talk to us a little bit. You'll be on the podcast. It'll air with you on it. Ask us whatever you want. We'll have a little discussion. We'll rotate people in and out. It'll be free-form, open discussion, and we'll even bring some questions of our own that people have submitted in case somebody doesn't have a question, whatever. But come in. It'll be sort of like a live event, like a meetup.
Heck yeah, live meetup.
And it'll be our second live episode, technically. And I'm going to try to do a little better on this one, try to get edited a little quicker. But yeah, this Sunday, Books A Million, West Knoxville, 2 to 4, live Beacon House mailbag. You come and be a part of the episode. We really, really would love people to come out and be on the episode.
I'm excited.
Yeah, dude.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nikki 6. Wait, is it Nikki 6?
It is.
I'm okay with
That's the correct answer.
Yeah.
So initial thoughts on Pet Sematary.
The new Pet Sematary.
Yes.
The new one.
Spencer,
Yes.
go ahead and tell us initial thoughts and whether or not.
You tried it again. You fucking tried it again. My initial thoughts are you can go stick your head up your ass.
Hunter,
Okay.
initial thoughts, and do you recommend people go see it in the theaters?
I think that it is. Oh boy.
You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I promise.
I'm more worried about the hypocrisy I'm about to spout. I think that it
pretty
is
hypocritical.
an exceptionally made film across the board that lacks a story and a point, that is empty like a cadaver, but is real pretty and well worth your time. You should see it. I don't know if you should go out and see it.
That was very beautiful. I like the part about the cadaver.
I'm trying to keep it on theme.
Cool.
My initial thoughts
Queso?
are it was darker than the original, much darker like the book. I thought it was a fun movie. It was very much like going to a haunted house, very creepy. There were points that got my heart racing. There were points that I was on the edge of my seat. It was a fun movie, and I definitely think you should go at least once to theaters to see it. I might even go a second time to go see it. I know I'm kind of a whore when it comes to movies, and I like every single one apparently, but I really enjoyed this one.
I will say I can definitely see myself going back and seeing it while it's still in theaters, and not so much because I'm just dying to see it again.
You just want to see the cats.
The cats
That's
are.
right.
We'll get to that. The cats are amazing in this movie.
Incredible.
it's not. I think I want to go see it with people that didn't get to see it with us this weekend, just to see what they think. Because again, I'm so close to this. I'm so close to this story and the original book and the original movie that I can only see it from inside my little echo chamber. And I try to be real objective about it, but it helps to see it through other people's eyes too. It's for somebody to go, that sucked, or hey, that was really cool, and it might be something that I just didn't pick up on. So anyway, I can see myself going to see it again. Do I recommend people go see it in the theater? Absolutely. I recommend you go see any movie in the theater. If we don't, theaters are going to go away, and it's going to be terrible. Even Us, as bad as I hated the movie Us, if it gets somebody out to theater, I think the movie going experience in itself is phenomenal.
Sacred.
Yeah, 100%. And I am really, I'm a big fan of anything that gets people out of their house and into a theater to watch a movie. And what was cool during this movie, at the beginning, during a lot of the trailers, we saw trailers for like old movies, like old MGM movies and musicals. That apparently they're going to start like revamping those and showing in the theater and that kind of stuff, like big production type stuff, Ben-Hur and shit like that. And I was like,
yes,
yeah, dude, think about that. Like when everybody's talking about there's nothing but remakes left and cinema's flat and blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. We'll show you the greatest movies of all time in the theater, and you can get popcorn and all your stuff. I think that's cool. So the theater going experience needs to be preserved regardless of how good Pet Sematary is. Okay.
So you think people should go to the theaters to see it, but what are your initial thoughts
Yeah,
about
you skirted that entire part of it.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to talk about the movie without comparing it to the original movie. My initial thoughts on the movie were that it was really good, and it was one of the scariest things I've seen, to me, in a very long time. Like we always talk on this podcast about this thing happened, that thing happened. You're always like Insidious, and I'm like stupid, and they're like Hereditary, and I'm like boring, and like this movie actually scared me, and I had not a lot because I know the story, but like just the imagery and some of the stuff, the psychological stuff, I had a little bit of trouble getting to sleep.
Oh,
a little bit, and it hasn't happened to me in a long time. But this movie made me feel that, I always talk about the suspension of disbelief. This movie made me feel, as I was getting into bed and turning the lights off, like, is there something standing in the doorway? This gave me that feeling, and I haven't had that in a minute. So fucking rad, just along that line right there.
I'm the worst.
Oh, look at you with their little. Okay,
It only took 59 episodes, and I didn't turn down my phone.
Is Nintendo going to sue us for that?
Somebody's got a little dingy phone noise. I will. Here's some things I noticed.
Hey, Spencer, you ready to gang up on Hunter?
I was waiting for it. I've been waiting for it.
No spoilers yet. It gave me a creepy feeling. It was scary. I thought. Something that kind of bothered me about it is the whole thing had that. It was a little dark, and I mean not in terms of tone. I'm talking visually.
Yeah.
So many movies these days do that, where they just look like you can barely. And maybe it's because I'm getting old and my eyes are not good anymore. But like, the movies don't look well lit. It looks like they're trying to cover set design and lack of visual depth by just making everything really dark, and you can barely see the detail on the. I don't like that. I like to see like incredible detail. That's one reason I'm really excited about the new movie by the director of Hereditary, Midsommar.
Yeah.
Coming out this year.
Bright.
It's super bright, and like, so they're not hiding anything. Anything you see is going to be sick as fuck, like straight up your ass, you know? So anyway, yeah, all in all, I liked it. I initially wanted to hate it. I didn't think it should have been made. I had a lot of reasons why the original couldn't be improved upon. And I still don't believe that it was, but I believe that something really important happened with this movie, which is germane to the story. So,
does that? Oh, but well, actually, I'll ask that question. But just for listeners, in context for this discussion, I tried to watch the original when I was a kid, and Zelda freaked me out on a level where I turned it off. So I've never seen it, and I've not read the book yet. So I'm objective and completely green on this.
Gotcha.
Anyways. Is that our setup for going into spoilers? Or
Well, I think you need to read the book and watch the original movie, and it'll give you a better appreciation for this movie.
This movie
I
made me
personally
want to
think
do
so.
that.
right.
To its credit.
If I will say that I can only imagine, and this is really hard for me to even pretend, but like, if I hadn't had any exposure to the source material up to this point, and I just saw this in the theater, I probably wouldn't have been that impressed. I probably would have been like,
That's how I felt.
that is like kind of a pet movie. You know what I mean? Like, I will say this: after having read the book and seen the original movie and worshipped the original movie over and over again, memorizing every line, like really getting into like, especially the character of Judd and all the layers of psychology that are buried in this movie, you know? And then recently, to prepare for this new movie, I downloaded the audiobook, which Michael C. Hall, who was...
It's the one I own. It's so good.
For all of you guys, that's Dexter, the guy that played Dexter, who's... If anybody saw the TV show Dexter, he narrated so much of the show, and he's such a great narrator. And he reads Pet Sematary for the audiobook, and it's phenomenal. We'll get into that, but it is, I would say out of all the different aspects of Pet Sematary, the audiobook read by him is the best. It's the highest form of art.
Yeah.
But having had all of that stuff, this movie came in and just filled in all the little cracks that nobody had filled in yet. So if you've already seen all the different dimensions of Pet Sematary, go give this one a shot. This is going to do some things you haven't seen. It wasn't just rehash, and I give it big points for that. It could have just followed the original to the letter, and honestly, I might have liked it better if it did. It didn't do some of the things I wanted it to do, and it did some things I didn't really care about, but they took a chance and they told a new version of a story that's been told a bunch of different ways. So I think this movie completes the cycle in a way, you know? So like, if you're a big fan of Pet Sematary, don't fucking sleep this one out. Don't pay attention to the stupid fucking reviews online. Don't pay attention to the detractors. Just go check it out. And if you're not sure how you feel about Pet Sematary, then, you know.
Still, I say still give it a shot, but
I say
maybe
go
wait
see
dollar
it.
movie or something.
Go see it anyway, because the cats deserve to get paid.
The cats are so good.
The cats are great in the movie.
Easily my
Oh
favorite
God.
actor this year is that cat, you know, or those 3 cats, whatever. I started following one of those cats on Instagram.
Did you? I bet yeah, you did.
Well, the first church you see in the movie is a cat called Tonic, and you can follow it on Instagram under church, aka Tonic.
He wore a tie.
Fucking cat wore a tie to the movie premiere. It looked so dope. Did you see the smug look on that thing's fucking face?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's right. I'm better than you. And I'm a
Coolest
cat.
animal I've ever seen, including all humans. I mean, what a fucking stud that cat is, you know? So, yeah, dude, go see it anyway if you just want to see a movie where the star is this amazing cat. Anyway.
So moving into spoiler territory.
Moving into spoiler.
Turn it off now if you haven't seen it, or if you don't care about spoilers, who gives a shit?
Right. Which that would be me. I'd be
Now,
like, just tell me.
Do you guys want to start like from the beginning and work our way through the movie, or jump and skip?
Jump
through?
around. Just jump around. What's first on
Jump
your
around.
mind? Yeah.
Jump, 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 jump.
Good vibration.
Yeah, go from wherever.
Okay. So my first initial reaction to this movie was they gave Rachel more purpose in this movie.
Is that the mom or
Yes.
the daughter? The mom.
They gave the mom more purpose, and they gave her story with Zelda and her fear of death and feeling like she killed her sister more purpose from the book than the original movie did, and I fucking loved it.
That was my favorite part
I
of the
agree
movie.
100%. I agree.
And the actress that played it was...
That actress would be Amy Seimetz?
Simetz, I think.
Seimetz. She was in Alien Covenant.
Because in the
and she
original
was
Pet
in,
Sematary...
she was in Stranger Things. And she's done a couple things. She's also a producer and writer of a bunch of independent films, too. So
Really?
the lady that plays the mom, or plays Rachel Creed in this one, she's got a lot of, like, big balls background stuff, but real cool artsy film production type stuff under her belt, you know?
Yeah. And I just feel like in the original movie, and kind of in the book, Rachel wasn't a really strong lead character. It was always about Lewis and Judd, and, you know, but in this one, they gave her own, like...
I will say, up until this movie, I could not stand Rachel Creed. I didn't like her in the first movie. I didn't like her in the book. She was a very annoying character. She sucked. This movie brought Rachel Creed to life for me.
Yeah. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the whole, instead of Gage being the one that gets hit by the bus or the truck, which, by the way, Spencer...
Oh, that's the big spoiler. Well, is it? Maybe
It's not. It's in the previews.
Yeah.
But you said you noticed something when you looked over, and the people, me and our friends that went to see it.
Save that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
I want to talk about that. That was my favorite part of the movie. I want to get that later.
You have the notes. How about you go over the notes and we'll just discuss it?
That's
Because
a good
you
call.
have it
You
written
lead the
out.
discussion. You have notes.
Yes.
Fuck you.
Go
guys.
ahead.
No, it's just, it gives us structure. Lets us know we're not dragging.
You drew a penis with claws right down there.
It's a chicken.
You should put that on Instagram.
It's
so
a
people
chicken with a penis.
Okay.
It's not.
We're gonna have a little contest. If somebody wins the contest, we'll think up something.
We'll
And
give
if
him
you-
the chicken with a penis.
You get to see Hunter's
right.
chicken penis monster head. That's more terrifying than anything in Pet Sematary. This thing on the table right here.
No lie.
Okay. Here I want to say one thing. I noticed something coming out of this movie that I haven't seen from a movie in a really long time. Like we got out of the movie, we all went to the bathroom, and we're like standing around. There were pockets of people standing everywhere talking about how badly they were scared. They were visibly going, "Oh my God, I thought I was going to die when that thing happened or that thing happened." And there was a lot of gasping and there was a tension in the theater that I have not seen in a movie in a long. I would imagine that the people that were really into Hereditary probably felt the same way. This movie accomplished for me what I was hoping Hereditary would, but I noticed a lot of similarities. It was thick. It felt thick and dreadful the way Hereditary did. It just, to me, this one had some payoff, and Hereditary necessarily didn't. But I kind of look back on it and think it did, And I would like to think that Dennis Widmeyer, the director of the new Pet Sematary, probably has seen Hereditary and was really trying, like, all right, cool, somebody's raised the bar, and we need to go that route. That's the new, that's the measuring stick for truly terrifying cinema, is that kind of stuff. The psychological aspect. I think he did a good job. But there were people standing around talking about how scared they were. I thought that was badass. It scared me, like I said, the movie hadn't done that long, even though I knew the story.
Now, what part was it that kind of set that?
The way the movie unfolded. There were parts in the movie where it was just like I don't know. It's hard. You'd have to see it, but just like when they would do close-ups on the dad, they'd be moving through the house, and I was like, even as much as I think I know the story, I'm not sure what's about to happen. And it's going to be fucked up when it does. That's the feeling
I think the director did that with the trailer, showing that he's changing it up with having the daughter die instead of Gage. It put people in this movie being like, I know the story. And then they saw the trailer and they're like, oh, I don't know what he's going to do with this.
Yeah. And so you're sitting there, oh, this is not going to zig and zag where I think it is. This is going to creep up behind me and scare the shit out of me. So I had that feeling. That's one thing. The cats in it, again, I'm a big fan of cats, but the cats that are in this movie are absolutely gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, from my understanding, they were all rescue animals too.
Oh, that's great.
That were rescued by these organizations and then trained to perform in movies and stuff like that. And there's I think there's 3 different cats that ultimately come together to play church in this movie, which is probably my favorite character from the entire Pet Sematary, other than Judd. So the cats in the movie are gorgeous. I wish they would have actually had more screen time.
I'd agree with that. The cat was,
beautiful.
Cat's incredible.
Cats are beautiful.
God, when the cat's sitting in the crib on top of Gage,
that part,
and he walks into the room and the eyes are glowing, I was like, whoa, fuck.
I was like, fuck yeah.
Okay, so that's an element in regards to your first point. This movie did not stay with me, and I fully expected it to. I think the dread and the thickness of it is 110% accurate, and in the moment, like the crib scene and anything with Zelda, specifically the conveyor belt and all that stuff, the dumbwaiter, any of the scenes that were supposed to get to you in the moment, I was on the edge of my seat, sweaty palms, everything, but it didn't stay with me. And
you know what?
I don't know why.
I kind of agree with that. Like, and I'm not shitting on the movie. Ultimately, it's a thumbs up from me. But I feel the same way. Like, I had to, let's put it this way. I had to make notes. If we were talking about the first movie, I wouldn't have any notes. Mm-hmm. It would all be committed to memory. Like, I would know exactly how I felt.
But how many times did you watch the first movie?
Well, a couple, but I felt differently leaving the theater the first time. The first time I left the theater the first time in the original movie, and I was like, my eyes just wouldn't shut. I was like, whoa. Like, I felt like I'd seen some shit.
Sorry, anyway.
But you're right. This movie was very, very effective, but it didn't necessarily stick with me that much.
But like a haunted house, like you described earlier, like when you're there and you're on the ride, that's what you want, and it gets an A+.
And then you leave, you're laughing with your friends, talking about the parts that you jumped at, and that's what I usually go to a horror movie for.
See, and
Same.
I don't, and I have some theories about why it's like that. I think you're right, Hunter. I completely agree with you, and other than, like I said, the little creepy parts, like when the lights went off, it got a little weird at the house, just because the way the movie was shot, it was so visually creepy. Like that, there's that thing that they did really well in this movie where, like, when you're in the house and like it's like dusk or twilight, and the lights are off and it's just dark in the house, and you're moving through a house, it's like a lot of shadows and stuff. Not necessarily deliberately, but you find yourself throughout the day in that,
in that mode. Yeah,
they captured that feeling a lot in this movie. So.
Judd's house where there's never a light on.
Well, and I want to say too, originally I thought that I wanted to discuss this by saying like, well, you can't compare the original and the new one because it's apples and oranges. But I got to say, man, that's just not true. This is not apples and oranges. This is the same tree. This two stories, both of these movies and the book and the audit, whatever, a play that gets put on next week, they all have the same source material. These are all branches of the same tree. They all come from the original story, and it's impossible to talk about it without comparison. So I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but moving forward, I'm going to say things that were different from the original and what I thought and blah, blah, blah. We already talked about the girls in this movie. The girl that played Rachel Creed. And I think I liked Ellie better in this movie.
Yeah.
The original,
She was great.
The original Ellen Creed in the first movie was such an annoying bitch. Sorry if she ever hears this, but I'm sure you're a great actress now, but
Do you think that's the benefit of her being dead in this movie? Or is that just because I've not seen it again?
when they were both alive in this movie and in the original movie, Ellen Creed annoyed the crap out of me.
Okay.
I just couldn't. She was so whiny and screaming, and I know they were trying to capture kids driving parents crazy, but it was just too annoying. This Ellen Creed to me was much more palatable, and she was a little more captivating.
To this young actress's credit, when she turns, I found myself, which isn't fair to the movie, but I was taken out of the movie, and not because she was doing bad, but she was doing so good that I was then sitting there as an adult going, I really fucking hope that she's okay. I hope this didn't bother her. Surely somebody was on set making sure she.
Oh no,
Psychologically, she was fine.
I think she's just a stellar actress.
No, for sure, but
She
just
totally was.
she went there in spades.
And I think it got a little silly, when it got when she first came back. And here we go. This is going to be big spoilers. Anybody when she first came back, she was fucked up looking. One eye was all drooping, and she was dirty, and it was awesome. I thought it looked so fucking rad. And then she sort of just became this weird baby doll thing, zombie. I don't know. It sort of turned into the Corpse Bride kind of a thing,
Okay, so to that note, that was one problem I had with the movie, and I have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
But the first night when she comes back, I thought was incredible.
Yeah.
After they wake up and it's the next day, everything from there
She's eating cereal, watching TV, and they're wait a minute, what?
She's doing a ballerina dance, and the dad's all smiling and happy because
They're about to have a picnic. One
It's
of them's
still
dead, one of them's
creepy. It's
not.
still fucked up. It's still well acted. Again, I think all the parts are great, but that's the point at which the movie just collapsed under the weight of its own.
I agree.
To me, and I don't know why. Because again, I think everything that was put in place was stellar, but I don't think it.
When he tries to live with her and introduce her to the mom, I take it back. The scene where the mom met her.
That was great.
Was great because of the mom, because of Amy Seimetz or whatever.
Well, yeah, she was freaking out, but then also Jason Clarke was standing there with tears in his eyes, and he's just hug your daughter. And I was like, fuck.
Jason Clarke also knocked it out of the park.
Knocked it out of the park. And the horror that you see in the mom and the dad as all this stuff is unfolding is what kind of sold it to me. I was yes, the story they're doing with the little girl is it got a little cheesy, but at the same time, just to see the horror that, like I said, man, I think the overarching performance in this movie was definitely Rachel Creed, the mom.
Yeah.
Even though the Lewis Creed was really good too, but I think they focused a little too much on him. I could have used a little less of the dad and a little more of Judd.
Well, I also wanted more friendship between Judd and Lewis because that was what sold it to me in the first book.
Yes.
Or in the first movie and in the original book. Is that they always drink beer and they're buddy.
Talk a lot.
Yeah, that's not in this movie.
They talk a lot.
And they're not friends in this movie.
Well, and in the original movie and in the book, Rachel and Ellie and Gage all leave to go to Thanksgiving and at her parents, and he stays behind because he has to work. That's when the cat gets killed, and Judd's like, "Hey, I know we're friends, and I know Ellie.
That's way different.
I know Ellie loves this cat, so I have an idea."
Mm-hmm.
And Lewis is like, "What?" And he's like, "Just follow me." And he takes him up to the rocky mountain, and they bury it up there. And he's like, "What did we do here, Judd?"
Yeah.
Okay, so some of those changes I think might not.
There were
have to
big changes. You should definitely. I could loan you. I think it might even be in my car. The anniversary edition of the original.
Sure,
movie.
I actually was going to get you that as a gift.
I've got
the 30th anniversary.
I probably
thing.
got three of them. But listen, here's what I found weird. I heard a lot of people go, "Well, this new Pet Sematary is a lot more true to the book," and I found that to be completely not true. This had way more. This went off book way more than the original movie. Not necessarily to it, and I think it had to. In order to be relevant or to even have a purpose,
be its own
to
entity.
exist.
For sure, yeah.
To even have a reason to exist today in theaters in 2019, 30 years later, it had to do something different. But the original movie was way closer to the book. And I know because I've been listening to the audiobook all week.
I feel like though with this movie, where they did hit the points of the book, they hit it dead on. Like they basically took it out of the book. Whereas the original movie, I felt like switched some things up.
Well, let me say here, back to these notes I made. Like, one thing I thought is this movie, this new Pet Sematary, moved a little too fast at first. Like they moved way too quick into the cat getting, like nobody was even out of town. The cat gets hit like in the middle of a birthday party, and they go,
Halloween, they're about to go trick or treating.
Okay, and they're like, well, we'll take it up there tonight. Or something. Like in the original one, like the family's gone. Lewis is like about to settle down and watch some TV, and then it happens, and they've got a whole day before anything happens. Like in this one, like they were having a party, cat gets hit, they go out trick or treating, cat's back same night. You know what I mean? And
there's no breathing room.
And there's no big talk with Judd and Lewis about what happened. It just moves real quick. I feel like the original movie and the story in the book, there's a lot of establishing things. The friendship between Lewis and Judd, the idea of the Pet Sematary, and all the idea of death. And here's the big thing. One reason I like this story so much, and I know a lot of people don't like it. Like I know that the Dead and Lovely guys didn't like it, and I respect them a ton. I love those guys. When they start talking about the cat dying, the very first time they have the conversation, and it touched a little bit in it. I think the new movie did a good job, but there's supposed to be this real defining scene where she's asking about her cat. Well, is Church going to die? And he's explaining like the metabolism. Well, some things live a long time, and some things don't live as long. And Church is going to be around for a long time. And the mom is like, "Well, Lewis, don't just tell her Church isn't going to die." And he goes, "Well, I can't. Like Church is going to die. So are you. So am I. We're all going to die. But don't tell the girl that." And they have this big, almost like philosophical / theological argument. And that kind of drives a wedge between Lewis and Rachel. It's like, well, don't tell her that anybody's going to. And she busts in the book and goes, "Look, nobody's going to die. Church is going to be here for a very long time, and so is Gage and all of us, and we're not going to die." And like, funny, that's kind of a foreshadowing thing,
Yeah.
Like the captain of the Titanic going, God himself could not sink
That
this
was
ship.
actually the big problem I had with the movie. Not that scene, but what you're talking about there and what you guys said about it was originally Thanksgiving and all that stuff. Even not knowing those things, I thought the movie didn't move too fast for me in the first two acts. It went way too fast at the end. I thought it had two really good acts that an ending was tacked onto, and it didn't have a third act, is how it felt to me. But
in the original movie, it's like that too. Like once they start burying people and they start coming back, they skip over a lot of that traveling. Because the weird thing about this story is every time somebody dies and gets buried, to come back to life up in the Indian burial ground, there's like a 5-mile hike through creepy woods and puddles, and they hear shit in the woods, and maybe it's a Wendigo, maybe it's a loon, and like even the original movie. And I can see why the directors and the screenwriters, they go, okay, look, people get it. They're walking through a swamp. So as the story nears the close, you just see like dead people coming back, and you kind of fill in the blanks that like, okay, they went through the swamp and they climbed over the deadfall and.
Well, right, but I don't even mean that. I mean the promises of the first two acts, the philosophical discussion that you just talked about, the dealing with death, the resolution of what happened with Zelda and whether or not it was her fault, the ghost boy that I was on board with in this movie, and then he just stopped showing up, and they never established why he actually did show up differently than other people and all that. That's what I meant. Like it when it got to the point where it was ending, it wasn't the pacing of it. It was that when it was done, I was like, you didn't resolve anything.
Right. Well,
at all, including Lewis's arc.
Here's what I'm thinking too. Some of the things, like I said, it moved too quick. Something I could use a little more of, the friendship between Lewis and Judd, for sure. But big part of that arc and the arc of the dead guy in the original movie, Pascal, there was a lot of dialogue. And this was not a dialogue-heavy movie. This was a visual-heavy movie. And so I get that they didn't want to spend a lot of time with.
I think that's how the director works, though. Because even with Starry Eyes, it's super visual.
Yeah, it's not real dialogue heavy, which I like dialogue heavy when it's good dialogue. Yeah. So you didn't get to hear all the in the original movie. Pascal is like helping Rachel Creed get back to Ludlow. Like he's at nobody can see him, but he's at the airport going, "Oh, here's a seat on the bus," or "Here's a seat on the plane," and like he's at the roadblock going, "Oh wait, I think you could let her through." And the guy's like, he's putting the Jedi mind trick on these people, trying to get
that
her
would have
back
been awesome
to stop. Yeah, and the new one, he just like sat there and his head was all bubbly. So here's what I think: the directors knew that if they didn't at least give a hat tip to Zelda and Pascal and some of these big themes from the original movie and in the book, that people were just going to hate it all. So they had to put that in there. But I really think Dennis Widmeyer and Colt, the other guy, Colch, Kevin Colch, I think, or whatever. Edit for content. I think they wanted to. Everybody knows the original story. Everybody knows they wanted to get through that stuff quick. They wanted to check off all the boxes, and then they wanted to tell this horrifying story about when the dead come back to life. In the original book, there's not a whole lot of that. Like, people start coming back kind of at the end, and then there's like a climax and it ends. In this, I think they really wanted to be like, they really wanted to flesh out the end of Pet Sematary, which honestly, not my favorite. I like the beginning of Pet Sematary, the human relationships, the philosophical questions, like the relationships that are about to be destroyed. That was my favorite part of the original story.
That's the stuff that makes all that horror matter.
Yeah.
And again, not to shit on this movie, you should go see it. I still think it's worth your time. But
it'll scare the fuck out of you, but it's not going to give you this amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm not being shitty about it. Like, okay, let's just say here, props to the directors. I never would imagine that they had so many new things to say about this story. They painted so many new dimensions that I just wouldn't have imagined. With Ellen Creed and like Gage, and like they told so many things I just didn't think. I was surprised by it. It surprised me a lot, and I'm so familiar with the story I didn't expect any surprises. But I'm giving them it's 30 years later, and you can't make the same movie again. I get it. There have been so many horror masterpieces between the original Pet Sematary and this one. This has got a lot to live up to. So I don't think they would have sold it with just people standing around talking a lot. They needed to do something kind of thick and kind of heavy and something that kind of hits you like a truck, you know, pun intended.
That's in poor taste.
Which, by the way, I've never been more like, my anxiety spiked heavily when both Gage and Ellie were in the road and that truck was coming. I was like,
you think they were going to kill them both?
I thought they were going to kill them both.
I did too.
And I was like,
uh-oh,
fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, that would be the biggest twist, is like they show Ellie in the trailers and then in reality, both of them go. And they both get brought back and like team up to terrorize everybody.
Yeah. It was a nice twist. I think that she saw the cat and that's what she was going for. And like, it was shot really well. Like, it worked really, really, really well. And the scene of the parents, like the mom collapsing when the daughter's dead, and like, it's supposed to capture that abject horror of losing a child, which is one of the reasons Stephen King said, like, this is too dark. I shouldn't have written about this. Like, I went over the line. This is not fodder for story time. This is absolutely terrifying. And originally only published this book because he had to get out of a deal with like Scribner or one of the publishers.
Which, by the way, from my understanding, Stephen King said he really enjoyed this adaptation of his story.
I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, I get it. It's got
good.
legs. It's got legs.
It's just
I don't think it's going to be as successful as the It reboot.
Well, it took $21 million to make this movie, and they're already at $43 million in box office sales.
Well, and this is not a big glossy special effects. This is a really old school, even the new version of Pet Sematary is an old school, really dependent on like makeup and actors, and like, you kind of can't fake it. Like they everything that's entertaining about this movie was legitimately entertaining, and it wasn't a parlor trick. Man,
when he's combing her hair in the bathtub,
that's my favorite scene.
Oh,
my
and
favorite
she
scene.
turns and looks at him because he's like, he sees the staples, and she goes, "What?" I was.
Oh, I know, because I looked. Here's what happened. I'll flesh this out for you.
Is this the part?
I wish you could have been there. So when she comes back and he's got her in the bathtub and he's trying to comb her hair, and it's the fucking brush is catching
bloody, and
you can almost hear like scalp tearing and all kinds of shit, and like her face is still all fucked up, like the one eye is still drooping. And I leaned over to shout out our buddy Eric Stam. I leaned over to him. He went. And I leaned over and I went, oh, they're about to fucking dial it up right now. Like, the director's like shifting into high gear at this point. Like, it's starting to get sick. It's going to get sick in ways the original one never, ever got close to. And I happened to look to my left, and several of our friends and like Casey were all sitting on, and man, they were just like on the edge of their seat watching that scene, and you could hear the scalp tearing.
I was waiting for her head to pop open and him to like see her brain and have to like put it back up.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, or like a big chunk of her scalp was just
which would have been cool, but
tub.
I think the staples was way more effective.
Yeah, it was neat, really, really fucking neat. And I was like, oh man, and it gave me that nails on chalkboard feeling. I was like, all right, they're doing it. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then, this movie did not have a lot of charm, and the original had tons of charm, and I missed it. But this movie was adequately dark, and it was scarier than the first one. And so, that's the thing. And they preserved the Ramones song, but that was a big one for me, like the Pet Sematary song. They had
I dug that song.
Super cool band out of LA, I think called Starcrawler. Kind covered it, and I've been listening to all the stuff. I followed them on Spotify, and they're fucking rad. Go check them out. But they covered the Ramones song really well. It sounds updated, but not bastardized. It rolls during the credits just like in the original movie. So they preserved some of the really important things. They didn't change the stuff that would have fucked everything up.
Do you want to talk about that ending shot? Because you were going on about that earlier.
Oh, man. The final shot in the movie. So the big spoiler is, in the original stories, Rachel definitely dies.
Yeah.
Lewis brings her back, and they live happily ever after, quote unquote.
No, in the
in the original movie.
In the original movie, she's about to kill Lewis when the credits roll. Like she comes back and her eyes all leaking.
Yeah, but they're kissing, and then she grabs the knife.
They're kissing, but then her hand goes through the knife, like she's about to kill him. So they actually took this one a little further.
And they actually killed Lewis. And then they all three, Ellie, Lewis, and Rachel, they've put Gage in the car for safety. Which, by the way, I thought was funny because a lot of people always get upset about leaving kids
locking
in
a kid in the car.
And this one is like...
It makes that opening shot way more hardcore.
Well, it's also like he's... Oh, yeah, because the car door was open in the original.
There were tiny bloody handprints on the window.
Oh, fuck, I didn't even think
and all those footsteps
about
going to the house. That's the part that stayed with me. So
I forgot about that opening shot where the door's open and there's a bloody handprint on the car door.
I didn't even think about it.
I always knew...
They got the car open.
Yeah.
Yeah, they opened it and...
Well, that was definitely the implications. By the way, Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny, the implications are there.
I didn't think about that, about the
But they
opening
showed
scene.
us the aftermath. They just didn't show us what happened. The opening shot...
I didn't connect. Wow. Not till just now did I connect.
Like, that tells us right there, they fucked that little boy up.
I just had a live epiphany.
Yeah.
He was, like, slapping at the window or something.
Oh, because there were bloody handprints inside the car.
They were little.
Yeah.
Oh, so they must have just torn him apart right there in the front seat or something, and then drug him off to the pet cemetery, and then
But
zombies.
When they're walking down, like, because they burned Judd's house down.
Right.
Like, they do the overshot. Even at the beginning, you see Judd's house on fire.
Yeah.
And you see Lewis with the can of gas, and then Rachel, and then Ellie, and they're all just slowly, like, walking. And they get closer and closer to the car, and all of a sudden, Church hops up on the car.
The cat, yeah.
And Gage is still alive, happy as can be, just like looking at his family. He's like, yeah, they're all there, they're fine. And then Lewis gets up to the side of the door and like puts his hands, like cups his hands to look inside. I was like, that's the implication. That kid is fucked. He is gonna die.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Well, that might have kind of been like a nod to the original movie. Like, just when you think Gage isn't going to die, they're like, oh, never mind. I thought seeing them all three walk up together like a zombie family was kind of stupid.
I didn't. I dug that.
I had a problem with that. And then until the shot that they established with it, when the cat jumped up on the car and you could see him behind the cat, I was like, okay.
Well, also, not only
that
that
frames it in pretty well.
But it's also a matter of... The one thing I took from this movie is that Church is in charge. The moment Church came back to life, he started putting things in motion to take the rest of the family out.
Fuck.
First, he's walking down the road to get Ellie to come out in the road, knowing those trucks are going to come down. Ellie dies. Then him and Ellie put things in motion to, take out Judd.
Clearly was going for Gage when
going for Gage. But with Judd, Church is like, hey, look at me, and then Ellie cuts out. By the way, that shot is way more violent than the original movie.
What was it?
The shot of him getting his Achilles tendon ripped out
the
with
whole
a scalpel.
foot flies open.
Yeah, it's just a big old gap there now.
No, I thought the death of Judd was a lot better in this one. The original one, it gets real I think it got campy in the original one on purpose, like where they cut his mouth open and you see Fred Gwynn, but it was kind of dumb. And I get it. I can understand why any of the reasons people don't like the original. I get it, and any reasons people don't like the new one. I get it. But there's just it comes down to preference. Like, do you like these things? Do you not like these things? I like them. But again, Judd in the new one, I love John Lithgow, and it did its thing really well. I missed the original Judd, and I missed like the I don't know.
I love John Lithgow so much. I think both of you guys, your points about the relationship being more expanded, more screen time for Lithgow would have been amazing.
There were a lot of scenes in the original Pet Sematary where Judd laughed a lot. He would laugh like there's only one time in the new one, so when the cat jumped up in his lap at the table. But in the original one, they're standing out, and everything Ellie or Gage would do, he would laugh and look over at Lewis. You really got a sense that these people were like close, and you didn't want anything to happen to them. So when things start happening to them, it's really sad.
Well, my favorite line in the original movie, and I guess in the book that they didn't do in this one. First of all, the whole procession with the kids wearing the masks, I was like, this is dumb. You don't need that.
Seemed a little dumb.
I would much rather have them out in the yard and Judd come over and they're talking, Ellie sees the path and she's like, oh, where's that go? He goes, oh, that down there is over, the Pet Sematary.
That's a good walk. Good story, too.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I'll tell you sometime.
Exactly.
The
that would have
procession-
been way better. The procession, I was like...
I thought it was cool, but it went nowhere. Another point.
Well, and I
not only that, but it was like the procession, and then they go inside, and she walks. There's like one episode of SpongeBob, and then goes into the Pet Cemetery, and everything's gone. And you don't even see where the new bear, like the dog, was buried.
And she does. I thought, well, maybe she's going to meet these other kids and talk to them. And
That's what I thought it was going to be. A Little Children of the Cornish.
I realized that the idea was one of the kids was going to leave the mask on the gravestone, and she would find it later, and then that would be the mask she wore, and when she had the mask on and she was like killing Judd, I was like, oh, that looks pretty fucking rad. Like I was surprised at how intimidating Ellen Creed was all of a sudden, and then she took it off and then didn't go back to. I was like, I don't,
Yeah.
I liked her dead and terrifying with the mask on. I didn't like the procession of the kids, and I whatever.
But yeah, I would much rather have Judd being Judd.
Let's talk about the Wendigo.
Oh, they actually touched on it in this.
I think that was the big critical improvement in this movie was the Wendigo, that they actually fleshed it out. They barely even touched on it in the first. They never mentioned the Wendigo in the first movie. They simply heard something when they were going through the forest, and he goes, what? He goes, Judd, what is that? And he goes, just a loon. Yeah. And that's what's going to be the thing. And
wait. So they hint at it, but they don't.
They never said the word Wendigo. In the new movie, he pulls open a fucking book. There's a picture of the damn thing. He talks about it. And coincidentally, in the book, in the audio book, I'm gonna continue by saying audiobook because that's the one I'm currently listening to with Michael C. Hall. But they talk about it. He goes, and apparently it all started like that's somewhere associated with why the ground went sour up in this burial ground, like the Indians had it, and it was like 100 years old. And the guy that showed him in the original book, Judd was born at the turn of the century, and an old guy that was already there, whose dad or granddad had been a fur trapper in the 1800s, who knew these Indians, and like the Indians had already stopped using it. But apparently there was an element of cannibalism, and they even kind of rationalize it in the book. They go, maybe these people got so desperate that they had to like eat each other. And so they blame it on the Wendigo for cannibalism, but really they were just desperate.
Yeah. So that expansion would have made a little more sense for the Wendigo being why the ground went sour.
Yeah.
Because I thought the implication in the movie, which this is probably splitting hairs, but was that the Wendigo was out there, and that's what you're hearing yell, and that's what they're saying, but that it was responsible directly for bringing the dead back to life and all that.
No.
And I was like, that makes no fucking sense. That's not what a Wendigo does. But what you're saying...
there was an element of cannibalism.
That the poisoning of the ground, and that the ground, the earth being supernatural and it just does shit. Yeah. I'm on board with that. But I thought they were just like,
they sort of hint
charge.
at that there's this area that became supernaturally affected by either cannibalism or the Wendigo maybe inspired the people to become cannibals, but then the ground, it was their burial ground, and now they're burying their friends that they ate, or whatever. Something happens and it gets fucked up. They abandon it, but they knew it would bring things back. And like Judd goes on to talk about, like that he's actually been there 5 times since he buried his original dog. His original dog was Spot, not Biffer. Another thing,
they also hinted that he buried Norma up there in this movie, which never happened in the original stories.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that element, though.
But it's because the reason he didn't
have a problem. That's whatever.
The reason he didn't bury Norma in the original book and in the original movie is because he was part of a mob that killed a guy and his son. Who this guy brought his son was in like the Vietnam War and died, and they shipped him back, and his dad took him up there and buried him. He came back to life, and he was a monster. And so the whole town got together with Judd, and they burned the house down, killing the dad and the son because the son was like ruining, like he was just evil.
And there's a scene, supposed to be a scene where after they bury the cat and it comes back, and then Lewis sees the cat and he goes, what the fuck? And he goes over to Judd's and they have a talk. Mm-hmm. There's this real important talk, and he goes, what happened, Judd? That cat was dead. And he tells him about the Pet Sematary. He goes, well, I just figured your daughter's maybe not ready to lose her favorite cat. And in the book, he says things like, well, nothing ever really came back mean. Like somebody buried a bull up there one time, and they talk about how they drug the bull all the way up the mountain and all this shit. And like,
so in the book, they say that they don't necessarily.
He goes, they come back stupid. And of course, Lewis is thinking, you mean they come back dead? But he's like, well, but they never really hurt nobody.
Yeah, but in this movie, he specifically said, Biffer had a mean streak, but was generally good, so I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But everything comes
And
back.
then Lewis goes, well, has
meaner.
anybody ever buried a person up there? And he goes, God, no.
Yeah, he knocks a glass over on the table and freaks out.
And it turns out somebody did bury a person up there. In fact, probably multiple people have done it. And it always turns out to be an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, thematically, these movies go the same direction.
In the original book, he buries Spot. It's not
Right.
Biffer. His dog is Spot.
Mm-hmm.
And Spot comes back, but Spot does turn mean eventually and attacks his mom. And that's when he has to, the dad goes, you're killing him this time. It
Right.
makes Judd go out and shoot the dog.
Yeah.
This only
And the
'cause-
second time he buries him in the actual Pet Sematary
Right.
where he stays buried,
because we're talking about a dog real quick, and then back to the actual movie. Did you guys hear the Cujo reference?
No.
When they're at the birthday party, and I think it's Judd talking, and all of a sudden they're panning away, and it's dialed down dialogue. But he goes, "Yeah, it's something like a Saint Bernard, and it got rabies, and just went really." Oh, I was like,
Yeah.
Shit.
That's
Well,
the
and there was
second
a-
movie in a row that
There was an It reference, too, when she was on the interstate trying to get back.
I missed that one, but I saw people talk about
When
it.
she's sitting there in traffic and she's trying to call Lewis, and she's like, Lewis, I just really need you to call me, and blah, blah, blah. It pans over, and there's a sign that says Derry, like 20 miles, when that's the town where it occurred in.
Well, I knew that, but that's a good It reference, but like half of his stuff takes place in Derry.
That's true.
Yeah. And I really dug this movie. I enjoyed it.
No, dude, I mean, as far as movies go, if you were to line all movies up from the beginning to the end, this would definitely be, in terms of like worst movie ever made to best movie ever made, which might be something like The Room and on the other end, The Princess Bride or something, maybe, this would definitely be way over halfway towards the good, I think.
I'll definitely own it. I'll buy it on DVD.
Same, like no bones about it.
Definitely
I'm
one of the better horror
excited
movies
to
I've
own
seen
it.
since the original one came
And
out.
I think more Stephen King movies should be remade because there's a whole generation of people who just either A, haven't seen them.
Right.
Because it's one of those things where it's like the only reason you would see it is if you found it on Hulu or went to McKay's and bought it. Like Maximum Overdrive. Can you imagine if they remade
dude.
the Maximum
That'd be
Overdrive?
dope.
Well,
Dude, have Spielberg do it, like remake. Do all
well,
that
and
as
these
Maximum
days,
Overdrive.
like when I was growing up, everybody knew the story of It and the Shining, and everybody knew Pet Sematary, and everybody knew The Stand, and everybody knew like whatever. But now, like you said, there's a whole generation of people that never read Cujo, that never read Tommy Knockers or whatever like that. And I totally agree. There's a lot of source material, and
That's
I
getting
kind
a new
of
movie, by the way. Tommy Knockers.
I'll wrap my comments up by saying this. This is sort of my closing statement about Pet Sematary, okay? Whether you like the new one or not, or whether you like it but don't like it as good as the original, or if you think the original is a piece of shit and the new one finally got it right, I would like to say that the real winner out of all this is the original material. Mm-hmm. The story gets a facelift and gets brought to a whole new generation of people. And I really learned that this week preparing for the movie by listening to the audiobook. And we're just realizing that regardless of the two movies, the absolute best version of the story is the original book story. And I would recommend anybody to download the audiobook, pay for it, whatever, steal it, just whatever I prefer you pay for it.
The one with Michael C. Hall.
With Michael C. Hall reading it. It's so good. It is incredible. And every time I put it on, it feels better than either one of the movies. It's amazing. And you get all the detail. You get the actual synopsis of the story and everything like that. And now, thanks to the new movie and the original movie, like I think they together give you a big ensemble of characters to pick from, to kind of plug into your memory. When you listen to the story, you can picture whoever you want. You can picture old Judd or new Judd. Mm-hmm. So like when I listen to it from now on, I'm probably going to have original Judd, but new Rachel. And maybe new Ellen, but original Lewis.
That's actually something I love about seeing the movies first is not only do you get more stuff just in general, so you never feel like you're lacking.
Right.
But not that Stephen King suffers from it, but some authors give you a real sketchy indication of what a person is. With everything else going on in a book, if I can have just like a cardboard archetype to put in there and just adjust details as I read, that helps a lot. So having an actor to...
Well, and also, I would take new setting over old setting. I thought the new setting like the new house and Judd's house,
The
and
new
like
road.
the new road, I thought was way,
Way
better,
better, yeah.
than the original movie. I thought the original movie didn't really feel like Maine, and this one it felt real thick foresty Maine.
I kind of didn't like that. The
Really?
forest kind of bothered me. It made it feel cluttered to me. I couldn't see the landscape. I kind of liked the original house where you could see it sitting kind of on this hill, and down the hill there was a rope swing, and right behind that's where the Pet Sematary path was. I kind of liked how clear it was. So I actually preferred the setting in the original movie, and I definitely preferred the actual Pet Sematary from the original movie. I thought it looked way better.
In this one?
No, in the original. And then in this one, you could hardly tell where anything was. It just looked real cluttered and overgrown. In the original one, it was real patterned out. It was in concentric circles. You could see all the markers and graves. It just looked cooler.
Yeah.
I will say, in the original movie compared to the new movie, the forest felt more evil and more of like an evil presence in its own character than in the original movie. I felt in the original movie, the Indian burial ground and the path leading up to that wasn't as creepy and scary as it was in this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
This one, it felt more alive.
There were times in this one, like when they were going through the swamp, I thought it was better in this one. But other than
And
that,
you can hear like the snapping and the things moving around.
I think I like the original one better because they would shot it way up on top of that mountain, and you could see the entire Micmac burial ground. I thought it was way scarier.
Well, I mean,
the first
that,
one.
yes, but I'm talking about the path leading to that.
Yeah.
I felt in this
I liked
one was
I liked
better.
when they were in the swamp in this one because it's true. Like it reminded me of the book. But
Dude, seeing that stairwell in the side of the mountain, that fucked me up.
Oh man,
that
all
one,
the bones
I didn't know
in the
that was
bottom
going
of
to
the
be
swamp
there.
when they showed the bones and everyone stepping on all the human bones.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was one thing I liked about actually not knowing what I was supposed to be seeing for this, because the bones, and I was like, oh, this is where they bury the stuff. And then they kept walking. I was like, maybe there's a spot. And then they kept walking, and then they show that stairwell that is just cut out of the side of a mountain. And that stuff is everywhere in real life and nature.
Yeah.
And all it is human ingenuity, but it creeps me out. Like they didn't build a structure around a thing. They just built through it.
Yeah, and in the book, the text is like that too. They say the steps have been carved out of the mountain, and they talk about the number of steps. And Judd's always like, it's 44 or 48. It turns out to be 45. There were 45 steps, and that comes back again. You know,
I definitely want to make a collection of all of Stephen King's old movies, and then also collect all
The
of
new
the
ones.
new remakes.
Yeah.
I can't wait for It Chapter 2.
Same.
Doctor
I thought we'd
Sleep.
get a teaser. in front
Doctor
of this.
Sleep movie is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for that too. And again, like I said, this gives you just another dimension to appreciate. If you're not a fan of Pet Sematary, you're not going to like it. But if you care about the original story at all, I think this gives you just another dimension. It's like a 3-dimensional thing. You've got the text, you've got the original movie, now you've got the new movie. And if you put them all together, it gives you a pretty spectacular vision of this, what is to me the most exciting, scary story of all time. You know, like the veil between
I'm
this
super
world and
pumped
the
to
next.
read it.
Like the
Now, I will say, and I said this last night, and I feel like I made a pretty good analogy with it, is comparing the original movie and the new movie is kind of like comparing Jack Nicholson's Joker to Heath Ledger's Joker.
Right.
They're both the same story. They're both the same bones. Mm-hmm. They're just portrayed differently, and I can't really find reasons
Well, what,
to
what,
hate
what
either.
little
well,
I
one
saw
doesn't
the
have
original,
to be better. It's okay for these things to be different without one of them having
Right.
to be superior. You can prefer, like I said, obviously I prefer the original movie, but they don't have to be. It's okay for them to be different. And if they were exactly the same, what would be the fucking point? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I found things in the new movie that I really liked. I really liked the new Rachel Creed better. The original doesn't have to be the same. And I know people that prefer, as crazy as this sounds, they prefer Jack Nicholson's Joker to Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that feel that way.
Absolutely.
They feel like they made it too dark and it just became like a procedural cop show in the Dark Knight, and the actual
it lacked
Batman.
comic book fun and wackiness. Yeah.
It lacked that thing. Like they preferred the original Batman with Michael Keaton and the Prince soundtrack and like the vivid colors, and it all looked like it was shot on a Broadway stage. Like they prefer that to like the Batman where you can see real dirt on the buildings and stuff. Whatever. Retellings of these classic stories, I think, are important.
Yeah, I think with these movies, I'll watch Pet Sematary on like the original Pet Sematary on October 1st, and then watch all my horror movies throughout the year, and then on Halloween night watch the new Pet Sematary. Like it'll definitely, both of those movies are definitely going to be part of my horror movie month.
I
Ensemble.
think I'll
I could see this one
probably.
being part
I think
of
I'll
that.
probably go see the new one again in theaters once, maybe twice. I don't know. I'll go see it again, especially if people like. Shout out if I got friends out there that didn't get to see it, hit me up because I'll go see it again with you.
I'll go see it again as well.
Yeah, we'll totally go back and because again,
I really want you to watch the original movie, Hunter, and read the book, and then to go back and watch it with us, the new movie, because I think you would appreciate this new movie more. Having the material.
The original story has more charm. It's not as dark. It's not just scary for no reason. It builds a lot of it's a lot more. It's got elements of like Forrest Gump or something. It's got like a big. I
didn't mind the darkness though. I just wanted context.
Well, you'll get then.
This movie had no context for me.
Yeah.
It set up its rules and it obeyed them to its credit, minus the Ghost Boy, which you explained much better than the movie did.
Right.
But that's the only thing that didn't work as far as like rules go. It's just there was no point to anything.
In the first movie, they took a lot of chances to set up those. Like the original Pascal guy, the ghost guy, is real cheesy in the first one, and it's almost funny at times. There's like some humor.
I've seen clips of that,
and he's always wearing these jogging shorts and stuff, and his face is just bleeding. But he's like real. Hey, Lewis.
But that's actual. That's
he's
Stephen
not like
King.
He's
though.
not like he's like Lewis. Listen, buddy, you can't do this, buddy.
Yeah.
It's a corny thing, but it establishes like the element of good or what. I think the new movie was intentionally trying to weed out some of the cheesy things from the first movie.
Well, and also in the new movie, Pascal is dark and scary and ominous, and he seems evil.
That's racist.
Oh my God, Spencer!
That's not what. Oh my God!
You said he was dark just because they picked a black guy this time.
No, but
come on! I'm just saying it's 2019.
That's not what I'm saying. Is that he seemed like they're trying to portray him as like this evil entity that's supposed to scare you and make you feel creepy. And the entire time while his presence is around, all he's doing is trying to warn the family, don't
true.
do it.
Yeah.
He was presented as a ghoulish villain from the get-go, but you're right. Everything he said was, don't do this.
Yeah.
But there were no conversations. It was just, don't do it.
Yeah. In fact, I
think that's the reason is because it's supposed to trick your mind to be like, this is a dead person coming back to scare them. Oh, no, wait, he's actually trying to warn them.
Well, and look, we're getting kind of long here. We need to wrap up. People are probably so fucking sick of hearing about Pet Sematary, but tell me what you guys think about this. I read some things after I saw it. I read about it a little bit, and some people think that a lot of what was happening here at the end with the car scene and then like the reprise, going back to the first scene where the car's open, but you didn't exactly see what happened. Some people think they're setting it up for a sequel.
Nope.
You think no?
I don't think they're going to.
There's nowhere to go with that.
I generally feel that too, but they
Zombie Family.
They
has
made
a
a
good
sequel
time.
to the first one.
Well, like
I've
Gage's
heard
going to
it's
somehow
terrible.
survive. Or
No, the sequel to the first Pet Sematary was like a whole different cast of characters, and you just heard about what happened to the Creeds.
But that's not a sequel then. It's it's part two, and sure, it's the same universe, but that's not actually a sequel. That's not a sequence.
I think how poorly the sequel was received originally,
Right.
I don't think they'll try to make a sequel to this one.
I know.
I will say that I think these directors are going to pick up another Stephen King
I hope so.
adapt. And I think, honestly, for the guy that directed this one, what was his name?
Dennis Widmeyer and Kolch is the other. I think Kevin Kolch.
Yeah, something like that.
I think, and I know people are going to get really mad at me for this, I think they should be given The Shining to be remade.
Fuck, I don't know about that.
Because I think I think they'd be able to.
Most people claim that's the scariest Stephen King stories.
I still feel weird about Dr. Sleep coming out because it's going to be based on the sequel to The Shining, but that's the book. And The Shining movie, which I do love, is way different. Everybody knows
the Kubrick
that. So,
one?
yeah, so
Me too.
like,
Stephen
how
King
is
hated
that?
that.
How is that going to play out if people go into it knowing that this is a sequel to The Shining, but it has nothing to do with the
Original
even
movie.
thematically? Yeah, the
Dude,
the
I
original
tell you,
movie.
I tell you what, I'd like to see these guys do.
The Stand.
Cujo.
Oh, dope. Yeah.
Honestly,
Maybe that's why they threw that in there. That was their bid for Cujo with the Saint Bernard.
the movie I'd like to see them do that was written by King is Desperation.
That'd be super dope.
That was one
that's
of
fucking
my
good.
favorite Stephen King books, and also one of the scariest Stephen King books.
The movie's horrible with
They-
Ron
they-
Perlman.
Did they do a movie about it?
It's a 2-part ABC movie.
Oh, fuck that. Fuck TV movie.
Tom Skerritt and Ron Perlman.
I wanna see
It's fun, but it's awful.
I want to see a super dark, not even for theaters, like a Netflix, like gross, disgusting, horrifying, like just wreck your psychology.
Love, Death, and Robots, penis everywhere kind of thing.
Definitely that. And on that note, now that Hunter has said penis everywhere, we hope that you guys enjoyed our review of Pet Sematary.
Diatribe.
Our diatribe. Our diet. Did I tell you to give me a diatribe?
We kind of jumped all over the place.
We did, but that's okay.
That is okay.
Yeah, It Chapter 2 coming out this year. Dr. Sleep coming out this year.
Also coming out this Sunday, Beacon House, live mailbag. 2 to
That's
4, Books A Million in West Knoxville.
You
Hit
said
us up.
Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday. Come talk about. You can come tell us how much our review of Pet Sematary sucked. You can come tell us how much we're wrong.
Which,
about
by the way, I want to say one thing real quick before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Fuck reviewers.
Oh,
I feel like people feel like their opinion on movies are way too important. And so I saw some reviews like on IMDb and Rotten Tomato where people were just like 5 paragraphs worth of a review. And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's like, I give it a 1 star because of blah, 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 blah. I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Just go watch
fuck
the
reviewers, including us.
Hey,
Exactly.
all you Stephen King fans out there, read From a Buick 8 and then join me in weeping that there's not an adaptation.
They're, that over down there is the Pet Sematary. Shut up.
Oh my.